Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi Mond, and tonight I am glad to say I am joined currently by the man across the water, Monty C. Burns. Are you al fresco this evening, Monty?
Al fresco indeed, Desi, yes.
Nice.
Wonderful.
And sunnier climes by the looks of it. But as always, and we're also from the man in the suburbs, our resident tactician, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Evening, guys. All right.
Thank you, guys, for joining. We are hoping that Ralph Mal can join once he's finished his current duties. He's hoping to get on later. There's a few non-Celtic areas that would be interesting if Ralph can contribute. So fingers crossed he gets to make it. Thanks to everyone for obviously tuning in. Thanks for the recent feedback. A lot of people have been saying. We got some excellent stats that I'll maybe try and bring in later to show how we've managed to break the top 200 in New Zealand. So there you go. So who knows? But there's only 196 sheep podcasts in front of us. We've still got a long way to go, but it's always nice to hear.
It'll be Mick Hollywood, won't it? Mick Hollywood.
And also for the person, so that's perfect timing, Hector, for the person who wrote in to say, yeah, and really enjoy the podcast, but talking over each other, oh my God, we will try our best to put our hands up before we speak tonight, please, gentlemen. Try and skill rules.
Can we just say to the podcaster, fuck off?
No, fuck off. You fuck off.
No, don't talk over me.
No, you fuck off. Quiet in the classroom. So of course, I thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It is Good Friday, so happy Easter. Happy Jesus getting crucified to one and all. It is the eve of Easter Saturday, the big game, literally the title decider. Let's be honest, the title clincher, no real decider, because there's no really much question. But we'll come to tomorrow's game shortly. As normal, we like to quickly look back at what we've missed Celtic-wise since the last podcast. We didn't do a podcast in March because there was an international break, so there wasn't really much to talk about. But Hector, as the resident tactician, let me read you through our last results since we last spoke. St Mirren 5-1. Scorers Jota, Johnson, Abada, O'Reilly and O. Hearts, we had a double-header against Hearts, if you remember. We beat them 3-1 at home. Maeda, Kyogo and Haksabanovic. And then we played Hearts 3-0 away, which we thought could have been a tricky tie. Moy scored in 2 minutes, so that managed to alleviate all of those worries. Kyogo and Carter Vickers in a 3-0 win in the quarterfinals of the Cup. And then we played Hibs we beat Hibs 3-1 at home, which was a very strange game, if you maybe remember. Johan of Hibs gets sent off, which seemed a very strange double yellow. A lot of people were convinced it was fully justified, and a lot of people just thought the ref was being a bit over eager. But it was nice to see. We don't care. We still won 3-1. Jota, O and Haksabanovic again. And then recently, good old VAR, as we like to call it here. Ross County 2-0 away, Jota and Bernabeu, as we're now calling them. So, did you enjoy those games from what you can remember?
It's interesting. I must admit, racking my brain a wee bit when you started talking about one or two of them. But get back to the very first one, which, looking at it from a scoreline perspective, looks the most convincing, 5-1. But actually, up until we got, it was a red card, wasn't it? A deserved red card, but the Saints player right on half time. We were 1-0 down, and we were actually really poor. And yeah, the last podcast we had, we were talking about since the World Cup, reconvention after the World Cup, reconvening after the World Cup, how in the first half in many games we've actually been killing teams off. So the second half's been about a training session. That was the opposite. We were really poor the first half. And that happens. It's not really a criticism. You can't be good every single game. And it turned on, the defender made a mistake, and Kyogo being Kyogo, just zipped in. Guy put them down, initially given a penalty and a red card, but it was given whatever's a free kick. The game changed on that. Totally changed it in the second half. We pummeled them. the 5 goals. But I think it's interesting. We just seem to have this way, going over the 5 or so games, this way of playing where you just know it's going to click at some point. It might take 5 minutes for it to click, or 60 minutes. But you know at some point it's going to click into gear. There's a confidence there. And as I say, it's not always guaranteed, but there's just a method of playing they've got now. Whereas Callum McGregor, the interview this week, said there's a process that we trust. And what it means with the process, there's a pattern of play. They'll repeat. McGregor gets it's a 6, inverted fullbacks come in. If we're in that position, we'll repeat that time after time. So there's a process, as they call it. Another part of the process, after 60, 65 minutes, Ange will bring on 3 or 4 fresh players to go bang for the last half hour, which we couldn't do last season. So just to summarise all that, it's been great. We've been periods of wonderful football. And I must admit, overall, it's hard to criticise. It's a results business. We're scoring the goals, and hats off to Ange and the team. They've been really good. They've been really, really good.
Yep. Yeah, any memories, especially the international break, kind of jokes it all a little bit, Monty, but any key memories for yourself? Anything that stood out, especially I think like the progress of the new players and players in this set, like Hector just mentioned, the subs like Hector scoring 2 goals, Johnson slotting in, even getting a goal, even if it was the defender, so to speak, but just the actual immediate impact and influence they're having.
Yeah, I think, if I'm honest, and it's not criticism, as Hector said, you can't keep up those standards, and we're averaging 3 goals a game. How in the name of God could you be in any way critical? But there's a peak that we haven't hit yet, and every season you kind of hit it. You get as close to, every now and again you get as close to a perfect 90 minutes as you could hope for. And we had one of them away at Dundee United, where we pumped, like we put 9 past them or something like that. It was like a professional team against an amateur team, and Dundee United up to that point hadn't been really that ranked. So I think the first half against Hearts in the Cup was when it felt like we tickled the levels again. We got the job done, and then the second half was just going to be moved anywhere. I think that process piece that Hector's talked about, I'm becoming more comfortable watching this when we're maybe not fully on it, because you do know at some point the click happens. So I think, as you say, how can you criticise a team that averages 3 goals a game? Drop points in 2 games out of 30. It's just a very, very it's a wonderful spectacle to watch it. I hope we have held back a little bit in terms of pushing ourselves to that level for this last little run. We didn't do it last year. I think if you remember, Desi, Postecoglou said that he wants us to be sprinting over the finish line. But we didn't really. We were knackered. And he talked about that the players, the Japanese players, would work too hard, and they put too much into the legs of a lot of them in the first half of the season. And I'm thinking, we're always iffy after an international break, but I think we might see momentum coming into the weekend. But we're just really good at the minute, Desi. It's hard to talk.
There's a few things that just came in my mind as you were saying that there. There is I'm not that big a fan of English football. I don't really have much emotional investment, but the comparisons between Postecoglou's Celtic and Guardiola's Man City regards playing and performances. I think I watched Man City the other week. I think it was maybe the Liverpool game, and all the goals were the same. The classic, I can't remember what pub football game it was, but basically get the ball down the line and cut it across the 6-yard box, and the guy taps it in the middle. I mean, that style of play, and you can see that in areas like Maeda to Kyogo. And it's just as Kyogo could have probably had 10 goals in the last 5 games if we'd have just had the opportunity of finding them. No, that way. It's just that wee split second, just trying to get him.
That was the one piece that I did mean to bring up. It's not a criticism. We seem to be wasteful in front of the goal at the minute, but it's not that we're wasteful. We're still scoring an average of 3. So it just shows you how many chances we're creating. Like the game at the weekend past. You're second half especially. First half we should have been out of sight, but second half you're thinking, we're missing a lot. We're hitting the bar, we're hitting the post, but we just keep going. So
the one away to Hearts, to pick one out, in Monty's point, in my opinion, would have been the most impressive performance in the Cup. Because the league, as we know, the league's in a really, really strong position. We'd have to throw it away. Let's be blunt about it, right? And I don't see with Ange that'll happen. Even if the worst was to happen tomorrow, still don't see it happening. But the cup, there's got a pressure because the cup's just a knockout game. And go to time cast, I think at that point they've been reasonable set of results. They've obviously fell in their arse since then. They've been really poor since then. I think possibly because, thankfully, I think we gave them a bit of a doing. But from the first whistle, there, we went, right, big game. And we just took it up a notch or two. Just went, right, this is a game, go for it. And by half time, in essence, the game was done. In fact, even at half time, Starfield, we didn't know he was injured in the first half, came off. Another boy came on at centre half. And you wouldn't have noticed there was a change. And that's a perfect example of how good Ange has been in terms of moulding his squad. Where if there's one, we always used to depend, we still probably do, right? There's probably, let's not kip ourselves on, there's 2 or 3, like Carter Vickers, McGregor, etc. There's always 2 or 3 key players in a team. But to lose one of our important central defensive partnership, another guy slots in, didn't even realise that really Starfield was missing. That's a wonderful position I can't remember us being in for such a long time. Even go back to Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill, we could have probably picked Martin O'Neill's first 11, and maybe a couple of subs. But if, you couldn't really do that with Martin O'Neill's team. You couldn't take out a mid or a centre half and feel comfortable. With Ange, it just feels, he's got it. It's in hand. Yeah. Don't worry. It'll take care of itself. He's got them all moulded into what he wants them to do.
Something else that's quite interesting in respect to the subs and swapping players in and out is it's not even a direct swap. I mean, like, it used to be like you would swap a 6-foot centre half for a 6-foot centre half, so to speak. It would just be like for like. Whereas, as we're talking about these games, we've not been really on fire in the first 45 to 60 minutes. So it's a case of, like, take a Maeda off, bring a Haksabanovic on, who can cut in and hit a high and aim for the corner with a hard high shot. No, it's like a wee different tactic, a wee different string to your bow kind of thing, a wee different kind of ploy. That idea, even like Bernabe for Taylor, like when Taylor got injured last week, Bernabe comes in and everybody slags Bernabe, he can't defend, but he's really good at attacking. He's really good at hitting that byline. So that's suddenly you've got another option. I'm not saying it's obligatory to keep swapping players in all the time, but it's not as if we're just like, you've got a good player and you've got like a 6 out of 10 backup for that player who plays similar but not as good. It's a player for a position, but they play totally different.
We've discussed it in here now for several podcasts, and it was Ange, and it was I'm trying to think who it was. You know how he puts his guard up a lot of the Scottish media, understandably so. I can't remember who it was with. It was a 1-1, and the guard dropped, and he was asked that, and we've discussed this. He was asked that very question, and he goes, "If you look at my team, I keep getting asked, things aren't going well. Do you change from a 4-3-3?" And he says, "No, because the players I bring on to replace a person in that position, they've got totally different skill set." It's your point there, Desi, about Bernabe. Bernabe's nothing like Taylor. Taylor's a better defender. Bernabe is by far a better attacker. They're totally different. You look at the wingers, you mentioned Haksabanovic compared to Maeda, chalk and cheese. Abada compared to Jota, chalk and cheese. Kyogo, nothing like each other. So it's just fascinating that he's moulded a squad that there's no really 2 players alike. And if there's a challenge, certainly domestically, I'll take you out and I can put you on, knowing you'll give us something different, but retain the gist of the team shape and structure. It's just fascinating stuff, I think.
There's something else just to add another layer on top of that, Hector, that he also talked about. The notion of swapping out the players with different attributes is one thing, but the reality is it's sticking to the system. He talked about giving the players the tools to react. This is a recent interview. The players are empowered to react to different scenarios on the field. So I think it was Ralph brought it up a few podcasts ago about the fact that we were taking the ball to the corner flag, or in the cup final, in the League Cup final, we went long a few times. Yeah. And we talked about that's players taking control of a situation. That's a senior player saying, "Lads, get the fuck up. Let's just take a little bit of heat off. This is starting to feel a bit too uncomfortable." Or,
I think it was Joe Hart sent it long, remember? Joe Hart sent it into the corner.
Right. And then you look at the one that he sent to O's feet. on the weekend past. I know turned the guy, granted it was a young defender, but his touch and his turn to get away from him was direct from heart. So all of a sudden, and that didn't happen by accident, that's another thing that's worth one. You've all these different tools at your disposal. And for those guys then, in the heat of the moment, to be confident enough in the process, as in, this is the way we play. But by the way, if I don't like the way things are going here, I'm going to change subtly. I'm just going to do something different for a couple of minutes until we figure it out. It's a really, really mature, powerful place to be. But the other side of the equation coming into the weekend too, don't underestimate the other mods. They're getting there too. Got the same type of, I don't think they're as good as us in terms of their ability, and we'll talk about that separately. But the ability to change things on the hoof in a game and execute it, two very, very different things. We just seem to have a really good balance in it.
You just highlighted something, Monty, that's been on my mind recently, especially watching other games, etc. And that's the regular scene now of like the high through ball goal, like Liverpool scored with Salah and that, and like all these like ultra beautiful football teams. A lot of them now are just playing that whole either the keeper or the centre half displays. I don't want to say the classic Goldson sweep, but it's just like, okay, well, we've managed to, like, say, push two midfielders up to split the centre halves, and there's a big space for somebody to run right through the middle. So that's kind of interesting to see. No, like, talking about O's turn and that at the weekend, that if suddenly we start to play like a knock-on kind of game.
And equally, it'll be interesting to see whether, because that's going into the weekend, that's their primary weapon. That long hoof into that space that we talked about in a couple of podcasts. That sort of 20-yard square that exists between our centre halves and our fullbacks. And sometimes our fullbacks are completely absent because they've moved on or they've tucked in. And that's a space that a smart player with, an intelligent player with pace can exploit. But there's three things have to happen for us to be caught out there. So probability suggests that, you know, how often are you really going to get caught out? Would you tweak? And would you change for something that's maybe a 1 in 3? And even then, if it's a 1 in 3 chance that those couple of things come off, you've still got the opportunity to defend it. So all of these subtleties, I think, I'm intrigued as to how we evolve our system with Postecoglou. I think we're evolving, our team is becoming more mature in our starting position and the way we play. We're becoming more intelligent. But how does he evolve it? Like, I'd love to see us play 2 up front. Why not? We're so dominant on the ball with everything else. Why wouldn't we play 2 up front? But there's obvious reasons, and they're tactical and above my pay grade. So.
Hold on, have you just recently started a Japanese Celtic supporters fan Twitter account? Because that's exactly what that wee guy Young's been saying for the last week. He's looking forward to seeing Kyogo and O up front. But I'm trying to think. So again, I had a chat today. I worked with a guy who's a Kilmarnock fan. Let's talk about carrying your cross on Good Friday. But he was asking, he's like, the Celtic fans don't like Greg Taylor, and I said, no, I was like, that was all an early kind of debacle regards he liked a Rangers tweet and people just took it too far. But he was telling me how he was standing next to Greg Taylor's dad at a Stranraer Kilmarnock game a long time ago, and Greg Taylor's dad was down seeing his son, but he's got a lovely Rangers sleeve tattoo on his arm. But the thing was, I was saying, no, Greg Taylor's won the fans over. I mean, he's a good, reliable defender. I was like, but interestingly, I think if we could find a left-sided defender of the same build and physique and physiology of Alistair Johnson, I think we would all say that's the next step. As in, you're talking about evolving, Monty. I think that's the next evolution of the side, to go bigger, broader, faster. No, the next level, suddenly you've got a defender who's hitting 7.5 every game and can run 100 yards in 10 seconds. That kind of idea.
But there's one other thing, Desi, that I think makes that type of beast unique, and why we're, again, with Johnson, I think when you add all the pieces together, it's really not a surprise, even though we're surprised, like Ellie said. And I hate to use the Brendan Rodgers word, but it's character. The mentality. If you look at our opponent on Saturday's left back, he ticks all those physical boxes. He is technically very good. He's an athlete. He gets up and down the pitch, but he's actually a shite bag, and he can't handle pressure, which is why he doesn't start for his national team. So finding that beast if we could find, as you say, that's the upgrade on Taylor. But it's not that long ago we were thinking that Taylor just wasn't going to make it. Mm-hmm. So it's an upgrade within the system. It's like getting a better pump for the car, or a better exhaust or some shit like that. It's just their addition to the system.
I would like to thank you because I was sitting, we were doing the agenda. Folk, you may not believe this, but we actually have an agenda in preparation for this podcast, and we were doing it and we were trying to work out what the agenda was. And somewhere in the back of my mind, something was screaming, "You're forgetting something. You're forgetting something. You're forgetting something." And we're going through various things, and you said the words Brendan Rodgers there. So why don't we take a quick 30 seconds? I just know, and the only reason I'm saying that is because there is a slight difference of opinion of forgive and forget on the E-Tim's group. So I'll start with Hector. Hector, any thoughts at all? Any indifferent? Are you just indifferent? Is it much water under the bridge now? Etc.
Yeah, I've totally moved on, and I think Ange is the reason for that. If we go back to the time, I think we're all unanimous, all absolutely devastated from a footballing perspective.
Two or three.
When he did it, absolutely, no true. And then I thought, you get through the different stages, don't you? Fucking anger and all the rest of it. But I'm actually, Leicester's results, Brendan Rodgers, it's never been a thing for me now for quite some time. And it's no criticism. Some folk get joy in him getting the bump. That's fair enough. I won't criticise those people. But Ange, to his credit, Ange's been like a whirlwind. He's come in and just went boof like that. Whereas Brendan was great his first couple of seasons, no disputing it. Undefeated treble and all the rest of it, historic. But he's not a thing for me. I just totally lost interest in him quite some time ago. So each to their own, but for me, no. Doesn't matter to me, he's irrelevant.
So Monty, have you visited them yet? Have you phoned them? What's happened? I know you are very good friends.
I'm golfing with him next week.
Is Lenny going as well?
No, Lenny's
Is it the Lurkin Open this weekend by any chance?
It's the northeast of Ireland mafia getting together.
Is Rory McIlroy available?
He's not going to miss the
No, he doesn't. I'm of a different kind of view to Rodgers' exit. I probably was a wee bit, not taking it back bad. He's a professional. The whole schmaltz thing and the Danny McGrain stuff is probably what hurt him more than anything else. I think if he'd have been just fucking honest about it, lads, I'm going to come here, I'm going to rebuild my career, and I'm going to move on back to the English Premier League. But he could never say that. The one thing that he did get caught out on, or not caught out on, the one thing that I think has happened, which justifies his reputation. When he was at Celtic, he said in his previous jobs, a team has a life cycle of 3 years, and then you have to rebuild it. At Celtic, it's 2, and that's his world. So you spend lots of money, you squeeze it a bit, you burn that money, you spend more again. Leicester didn't back him this time. Leicester didn't give him the money they couldn't because of financial fair play. So Rodgers was left with a bad deck. His motivations, his personal selfish motivations kicked in at the turn of the year, if you recall. He was basically trying to get himself sacked in. But they stuck with him. I don't think he's as much of a sleazebag as people paint him out to be. He's just a professional football manager. You go to the Garden for a year, unless Spurs or Chelsea want him. He's actually the perfect fit for Chelsea. Because he won't need to spend money in 3 years' time. Because Chelsea have got 2 squads there for the next fucking 10 years. I read a fantastic article about that basket case. So, disappointed for him. But
I wasn't planning on arguing about Brendan Rodgers tonight, because obviously I am very much in the never forgive, never forget camp, purely for it. And again, I still say, even though COVID / Lenny / Celtic fucked it, the 10, at the time, Rodgers was the biggest threat to the 10. I mean, by walking out that night and taking 99.9% of the staff with him. Only John Kennedy said no thanks to Stevie Wood. It's ridiculous. I mean, like, in fact, this is just saying that. When I was having a discussion, I can't remember if it was Sid Lowe or somebody else on, or I can't remember, one of the reporters on Twitter last week when he gets sacked, mooch to the left, whatever you want to say. There was 5 different versions of him exiting Leicester. But he basically came back and went, the legacy Brendan Rodgers will leave. It was the top 5 finishes Leicester have ever had. He had 3 of them, and they won an FA Cup, and you're like, fine. And I said, yeah, but so it's a built-in success story. I went, but there's also always a built-in time limit for Rodgers, and that's 2.5 seasons. 30 months is his limit, and then it goes off the cliff. And this is you're saying there, like maybe Leicester hadn't backed him, or he wasn't able to take that next leap. But he's never been able to take that next leap. Right, I'm looking at Wikipedia. Watford a year, Reading a year, Swansea City 2010 to 2012, so roughly 2.5 years, and then the exit. Liverpool 2012 to 2015, so 3.5 years at the most. Celtic 2016 to 2019, again 3 years. Leicester 2019 to 2023. No, right, so there's obviously a built-in plateau in that. And I've said for years to you guys, like I was told years ago that he was number 1 on the English FA's list for England manager. And he would be an ideal 1 tournament manager. Get us to that, like England are guaranteed to qualify for the tournament, but get you through a tournament, like win a tournament and then walk off with your head held high. He's that sort of immediate impact. You know yourself, the whole culture, immediate success, changing the format of an organisation. He could do that in 3 years and then bugger off.
Where I would disagree with you is Southgate has already done that. Southgate and him are from a similar mentality and a similar scoop.
But Southgate's took a lot longer approach. He's kind of had a 5-year, 7-year plan kind of thing, rather than a Rodgers 3-year plan, if you know what I mean.
I
don't care.
I know, but I still think it's interesting football-wise. But then as you say, Hector, right, it's like suddenly Ange walks in, the guy walks in from nowhere, we're all shattered, blah, 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 we've had Lenny, etc. And this guy suddenly changes it. But every now and again you do see people put up on Twitter about sort of Rodgers. I appreciate Rodgers' football more than I appreciate Postecoglou's football, etc. And I think that's this success fatigue a lot of the times, where people just get so tired of winning all the time, they need to complain about we're no winning prettily enough, or we're no winning before. It's this 3-year game, as Monty mentioned there.
Remember when all the madness kicked in and they used the phrase entitled and everybody lost their fucking shit? That's exactly what you've just described. But I was going to say, when the point at which Ange leaves, he's going to leave a structure behind him. He's not going to do what Rodgers did. He's not going to gut it. And you know, how well are we going to take it when Kevin Muscat's our next manager?
Yeah, that was Rodgers this leaving Hector's house by the sounds of Right, so let's move on. Obviously, apologies folks if you didn't know what to hear any Brendan Rodgers talk there. Hopefully that'll be the last of ever mentioned, but probably not, let's be honest. Before I forget, I knew I had something else to bring up, just quickly, Hector. Yeah. Are you planning, or Hector and Monty, are any of you planning attending the Celtic FC Foundation Seville 20 year on? Because Monty, you did help organise the party in the park. Let's not forget, you were a big major part of that success. Are you planning going at all? Only £65 a ticket.
Fucking hell, I didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah.
Really? Is it
yeah.
Genuinely didn't know. When is it? I didn't know. I
think it might be May. So if you look up Rogan Trevino on Twitter was putting it, and it's been advertised a table of 10, £650 or whatever it is. But I just thought, really, I know it's for a good cause and that, but we didn't win. I mean, like, do we need to go back to celebrating a trip to Europe? I mean, like, Hector, my daughter did ask the other day. She's still upset that we never had a post-Madrid podcast for all of us to reflect on the Madrid trip. So maybe we should try and organise that as a Celtic charity night.
I think the thing with it, it was a generational thing, wasn't it? If you think about it, getting to European final, the first one for 1970. So for people like us who grew up with dads and uncles and all the rest of it, who either probably couldn't attend at the time, but they watched it, we grew up. So to get to a final, it was a great achievement. Then the number of fans we took was an incredible. I don't know if to this day if it's still the biggest that's ever travelled overseas to go to.
Rangers at Manchester.
Overseas. I mean, to go, you know, and but we all went, and it was so the whole thing was a story on its own. And the guy who's I didn't know much about it. He's organised it. I've met him a couple of times. He's a dead good guy, and his dad ran flights to Milan, 1970.
Yeah.
And he was a wee boy at the time. So I've met Brogan Trevino. He's a dead good guy. So and he did the Lisbon one a few years ago, and I was close to going over for it, just couldn't make it. So I think there's a lot of kind of good. I get your point, Desi, but it was like a bit of a, I hate to use the term journey, but it was for our generation, getting to a final, the way it happened, it was just a quite fantastic achievement. To lose it in the way we did, we all know that. I don't want to go over that again. So each their own. You know, it'd probably be a good event. But aye, whatever.
So just quickly touching that, Monty, do you think we would have won in Seville if it hadn't been for Brendan Rodgers? Because I'm blaming him for everything tonight, so let's just get that on the table. But yeah, obviously I'm just saying that, and I mean, like, Seville was wonderful, but I just kind of going like, come on, it's like, is that really a thing that we're now paying tribute to 20 years to Seville? Then it's going to be, is that going to be a thing that just lingers, and again it becomes just something to celebrate getting to a final? No, I mean, that idea.
Yeah. Like, we don't talk about the Tyrone Armagh All Ireland the year after we won it. You know, no one commemorates that, even though we probably, you know, should have won that. And dodgy red cards and all that shit. I get it. There's a whole pageantry around Seville just because, as Hector said, the nature and scale of it, and it was generational. And 20 years on, for those of us still this side of the daisies that can remember it and had such a good time at it, they're doing something for the foundation. I think it's a very good thing. Just as a matter of interest, where are they holding this event? Is it in Seville?
It's up at the Crown Plaza. If you can look it up, you'll see it.
I will. I will. Because I think it's good, but I'm with you on it. You know, it was lovely. It was great. I'd like to aspire in my lifetime to get into another one and maybe win them. It was the conference. I'd love to.
Champions League.
Just for that whole thing. Yeah, but no reason. Yeah, exactly. There's no ceiling. The only ceiling exists is in your mind. But why not? When people say, fucking money and reality. No. The Porto team that beat us in Seville went on to win it the next year. They weren't anything special, but they had a really good manager. We're exactly that right now. I'm not suggesting we're Porto from then, but yeah, there shouldn't be a ceiling.
Seville the Celtic way. I think if you were an early bird, you were getting it for £50 a ticket. But the Celtic way, we take a trip down memory lane in our Seville the Celtic way fundraiser, and of course it's good. This Foundation Day, great work, etc.
Yeah.
So good luck to them. Obviously, I'm not having a go at the aim. It's just the aspect of let's just celebrate getting to Seville, that kind of idea.
Let's get the one in next year's finals. You know, that's
exactly. I always remember, like, mandolin. Always used to remember, like, mandolin. Hector, what's your favourite Celtic goal? The next one. I mean, I always loved that reply. The next one. So that's fine. So that I knew I had two things in my mind that I hadn't put on that list, and that was that. And again, good luck to the foundation. Hopefully, they raise a lot of money to spend on all the good causes, and also Brendan Rodgers. So we'll skip the whole Scotland. Well done to Scotland for a couple of wins. Especially like ex-Celts like Kieran Tierney doing well. Big Scott McTominay, I believe, maybe a Celtic fan, doing very well, and Callum McGregor playing the full 180 minutes. And I was really surprised, I don't know if any of you saw, they'd released a list of the most hard-working players in the top 15 leagues this year. And I think this is the first year that Callum McGregor's not been in the top 20. But it said, you know, when I looked at it, what's the guy that plays for Man United? Bruno
Fernandes.
He's played the most because they've played so many European games. But it said McGregor only played 3 European games. Is that right? Didn't he play Madrid? I cannot skip my mind, and that's where I noticed there was a big deficit because he's only played something like 35 games this season.
Remember he got injured to get Damas going? Did you know?
Oh, aye, was that part of that? Sorry.
Aye.
That's right.
I thought that was quite interesting. So, Callum, well done to him. And Big O, he impressed for South Korea. I know he got a really good goal chopped off, but Jurgen Klinsmann's really impressed, he says. He's obviously a star in the making, and I think he's hoping to come to Celtic Park to see him. He might even be there tomorrow, I don't know. But that brings us to tomorrow's game. So, Celtic currently 9 points ahead. Hector, what would your tactics be as a resident tactician? Is it carry on regardless?
Well, that will be the tactics. Ange will play his style of football, rightly so. You'll just commit, prepare them as he does week in, week out to play the style of football they're accustomed to. The only question mark, I suppose, is round. Well, we see the photographs. Was it Greg Taylor was training yesterday, so he looks okay. So the question mark's going to be who steps in now that Hatate isn't available and Moyes back. Because I think otherwise the team pretty much picks itself, isn't it? You're going to have Hart, Johnston, Taylor, the two fullbacks, Carter Vickers and Starfelt, and up front, the front three probably picks itself.
So apologies, I don't want to talk over you because we're taking feedback, constructive feedback. So is Hatate definitely out? Because I've not had the chance to catch up on today's news.
Apparently, yeah, Ange said he's out.
Do you think there could be any mind games there at all?
I don't think he's the type. I don't think he's the type to do that. Well, Taylor was training, so he looked. I'm just based at him training. I'd say he's ready to play. So for me, it's all about the midfield then, right? So Callum McGregor's. There's one. If I had Moyes available for selection, he was close last week against Ross County, according to Ange. Then Moy comes in. There's two, and the question mark is who's the third one? Is it either Matt O'Reilly stepping up to the 10, or does Awata stay at 6 and have Moy and McGregor playing in front of him? I think that's the only real question mark for tomorrow. For me, I would have Awata starting tomorrow at 6. I know it's away to Ross County last week. Seen enough of the guy. He's a 6. He covers that much space as if he's been there for years. And it frees up Calmac to go and do his thing. So, and Moy steps in ahead of O'Reilly for me every time based upon this season's performances.
My only dispute with that is the dictating of the game, the magnitude of the game, the speed of the game. And I agree with you, by the way. Awata is our number 6. He should be, and that should be the way we go forward. But he's only had one start. But Ange said, look, we've seen enough of the guy, and he's been training brilliantly, so it's time. And it also aligns with his other statement around the January signings. Ease them in, don't burn them out, don't throw them in the way we threw Maeda and Hatate and fucking have them destroyed by net. So I only, I'm right on the fence on this to whether it's Awata in 6 or Calmac, and I just lean towards Calmac purely because of the fixture.
But there's the interesting thing. I was thinking this before the podcast. See if it's Calmac and Moy and O'Reilly. So what? It's like, you know what I mean? It's as if, all right, let's go for it. Let's do it. It's not as if one's a must-have, one's a get to fuck. It's like, okay, great. Whatever one you choose, and you know best, go for it. And if it's not working, guess what we'll do? We'll change it. I mean,
I actually hope to do a wee bit of research on this, but I didn't get a chance today. I had to work. And that was the impact and the effect of Hatate starting and the impact of Hatate no starting. Because I've just listening to you today, I've just wrote in the words to touch. And I was explaining to a guy today about how Hatate makes so much of a difference to the Celtic team by no taking any touches. He lets the ball run across him and then moves it on. Awata does a little bit of that, and all you'll notice, but the rest of the Celtic players all take 2 touches. Even McGregor, they might not lose it, and they might do fine with it, but it's the actual speed of attack and actual cut and making the most of that wee bit of space that's been created. We kind of lose that when you've not got a Hatate. I think Moy's got a really good eye for playing the through ball, but we don't have anybody. If Hatate and Moy aren't playing together, why am isn't there to run past to break the lines for the other one to pass to? So we're relying on Maeda getting on to the end of it. Calmac's not going to break a line. He doesn't do that anymore.
Well,
I don't mean that against him, but that's not his game anymore. I'm talking about like
he's going to be playing that position.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But again, I just mean in general. So again, that's like the domino effect of if you move Calmac, like if Hatate's not playing in, if you move Calmac up front and hope Awata can fill in, So there is a lot. I mean, it's like they're all great players, but it's still a wee bit of tweaking. So it's not necessarily. It's like a new Formula One car. It might need a few laps for you to tweak the wee bits here and there to get it running. So, but like straight out the gate, it might not be fully hitting 100%. And that's what I think when we start creating. When you take like a Hatate out of the team, or you move a Cal Mack for the 6, it all you can see it affect. Like we've been like kind of average in a lot of the games recently, because you see a lot of the players just kind of, I think, try to find their way, and then by the time 60 minutes comes, we've overran the opposition and we can start getting the goals. But I think it'll be interesting. If Hatate's not against Rangers tomorrow, that takes a big danger away from Rangers because of the speed of movement and the ball he retains, in my opinion. I still think we'll win. I still think we'll win, but I just think it would take like another 15 minutes to score that goal, if that makes sense.
I think we're going to come out full sledgehammer tomorrow from the first minute, because they have.
Right. That immediate point, you really think Matt O'Reilly's going to produce that sledgehammer for you? And I'm not saying I'm not having a go at Matt O'Reilly. I'm just talking about like the game, the approach to the game. Like he's not really like you've not really seen him being dominant in a game, have you? This for a long, long time for Celtic.
But I don't know if it's not. We had this for a while with Jota as well, that he wasn't having the effect on games that he was having when he was at the peak of his game, but that didn't matter because the rest of the team shares the burden. And I think O'Reilly's been in and out of the team. When we had that window when Cal Mack was injured, O'Reilly really stepped up at 6. He was fucking great. And then he tailed off. So I wouldn't be too worried about him starting, because if you're going to hammer them, if you're going to really go for it, like from the start, then it's attacking intent that you want, within the structure. And in that regard, I think O'Reilly is the better option. So
I just checked there, right? So the 2 games were played Rangers at Celtic Park last year. What this season obviously won was February last season. We beat them 3-0, 4-0. Matt O'Reilly started both games. So, and we blitzed them the first half. I agree with you. Hatate's a fantastic player. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said about Hatate, how good he is. I think he's fantastic. But I think it goes back to the point. We don't depend on one player how we play. We attack from multiple positions. We attack all over the front 3, who the wingers are moving all across the front line all the time. We've got inverted fullbacks creating space. I reckon we'll have, if it's either McGregor and Moy, or if it's Riley and Moy, falling into the gaps between their back 4 and the midfield. So I just think if we play our game, come out the traps, 100 mile an hour, which we will do, and play our game, nothing daft, just play our game, then I think we'll win with a wee bit to spare tomorrow.
Yeah, and again, there's an interesting aspect to that and I've mentioned this a million times over the years. This is a game where Celtic don't need to win. And I'm not saying we're not playing to win. I'm just mean, this is a game, all the pressure's on Rangers, Monty. All the pressure's on Rangers to win. A draw is no good enough for Rangers. You know what I mean?
And that's why I think, I think 2 things. We'll come out really, really hard at the start, and then we'll settle into our normal pattern. And then it's for them to come at us. And I talked, I think, about on the last podcast about how I'm fascinated with Beale's approach and what he's going to do, because he's essentially playing with a deck that's going to get ripped up at the end of the season, and he knows that, and they know that. He obviously has their respect. He's been on a phenomenal run. Let's not be shy about it. They've matched us step for step, albeit they've gone backwards in goals. How he goes about it will, I think for the first time you'll see us react to another team very, very quickly. And what I mean by that is if they play the same route 1 ping into those sort of squares and spaces, I think we'll have something to counter that. But I think that there's a rope-a-dope here as well, because as you said, Desi, at some point they have to come out. They can't not win, And we have weaponry to hit them hard at the start, to control the game, to hit them on the break. You wouldn't want to be coming up against that in a game that you fucking have to win. Their best hope is to get ahead. get a lucky break, maybe get 2 ahead, and then retreat into the shell, and we'll fucking pummel them from there. You know what I mean? We hit them and hit them and hit them. So I'm not. I think it'll be a draw tomorrow. I think it'll be one of those ones where we'll be a bit pissed off that we didn't win it, and so will they. But either way, we're still a better outfit, and it doesn't define the end of the season. I've just this sneaking feeling in my head that when Postecoglou said he wanted to see us sprint to the line last year, we're going to see it really ratchet up tomorrow. We're going to see us really fucking go for it, which will be glorious to watch, I think.
And this prompted by Hector's mention of the 4-0 game there. I'm just looking at the kind of coverage online, and it's quite interesting reading, as in you wonder which team actually won. If you were to show the stats for that game and then ask who won, you'd probably get a mixed reply. For example, Rangers had 4 corners, Celtic had 3. Rangers 2 offside, Celtic had 1. Celtic, they both had 3 yellow cards. Interesting, I thought it's going to be of interest tomorrow. Both Carter Vickers and Starfelt get booked in that game. A game that we won 4-0. Somehow, our 2 centre-halves get booked. You know what I mean? Like, interestingly. We had 12 fouls to their 11. They had a better pass accuracy. They had almost 100 more passes in that game. So, I don't know if it was just between Goldson and Tavernier going back and forth.
That's what it would have been, yeah.
You know what I mean? They had 55 possession, we had 45 possession.
Get to the important bit, Desi. What was the shots?
We had 15 shots to there. They had 11 shots in that game.
Aye.
You know what I mean? So where would it was it for the half line?
Punch to Goldson don't count.
Was it for that's what I'm saying, the half line? But yeah, I still believe it's going to be the bet for tomorrow's game is Celtic -2. I honestly think we'll beat them by 3 goals, one way or other. I know I might have sounded negative with the whole what happens when you move players out, but we're still replacing a player who's 9 out of 10 in the position with a player who's going to be 8 out of 10 in that position. I'm not down crying the whole Celtic lineup. I'm just talking about the impact of tweaking. That's all I was alluding to.
That bet is sound, provided we tidy up the conversion wastage. If you take the last couple of games where we haven't really closed it out in the way that we wanted, Ross County, Hibs, and we're never that good, by the way, around an international break. Going into it and coming out of it, we seem to lull a little bit. Ross County was a little bit of a banana skin. But if we can sort out the conversion to chances, then your bet's sound, because we create that much, and it doesn't matter whether it's them. It doesn't matter if it was like, hey, look at the fucking chances we create against Madrid. It's just around their ability to execute and take their chances.
The other thing I wanted to add, and for me it's an important aspect, is there's no away fans at all. 0.
Yeah.
And we were at the 3-0 game last February. And anybody who thinks it doesn't make a difference is off their tree. They absolutely shat it.
Aye.
For the first whistle, 60,000 Celtic fans, they'd nothing. They'd nothing to turn to now. Opposition teams do their warm-up and they go to their corner with their wee section of fans there, and they kind of warm down that area and do a wee, some encouragement. Nothing. They'd nothing. So I would just say, nothing's guaranteed ever. Things happen. There's variables in football. Every game you play, there's variables, right? That's just life. It might happen tomorrow. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it just plays out. Best team wins. But in an even keel, with 60,000 Celtic fans against them, back to Desi's point 10, 15 minutes ago, if we win, pretty much that's the league in the bag. It's a league decider for us tomorrow. It will determine if we will officially probably win the league tomorrow. Don't think that doesn't play a part. It does play a part. And we can use that to our advantage, which means Ange will have them flying out the traps for the very first whistle tomorrow.
But remember the counter to that as well. You're going to die with your boots on. And this is where Bale's love of the dark arts comes into the equation. If you've got a bunch of boys who are on their last legs and on their way out of a football club, some of them will be selfish. Some of them will be coming to the end of their tenure and maybe they're done, the likes of a fucking Arfield and a McGregor and even Jack. They'll, if this is your statement, it's as easy for a manager to get them into the bunker with him if they respect him, and they seem to do.
But he's put them under the bus, Monty. He's already told lots of them they won't be there. He's already said he's shown his commitment or lack of commitment to a lot of the players. So there's a fragility. There's a fragility there in my opinion. See, if we score first in the first 15 minutes, go 1-0 ahead. There's a fragility there with them.
But the fragility kicks in when the human emotion kicks in. Going, fuck that! I'm not going for that 50-50. I have a contract to get in the summer, and I might be going to somewhere in Barnsley. It's not though. It's for this spectacle. And there was hints of it in Tavernier talking about you'll see a very different Rangers, all that shit, all the build-up, usual noise and shit. But it gives him the opportunity, because this is his trick. His trick is purely to fucking demonise us. Remember, he couldn't even use the word Celtic, the opposition, the other mob. That's his trick. He's trying to create this fucking bogeyman that they go after. This gives him actually extra oxygen, even with the team that are going to be leaving. You boys want to write your name in history, get out there and fucking pummel these bastards. Ferguson was even on at it in a daily record in his own Baz and Ned type way. You know, ruin your fucking weekend. I just wouldn't rule out the counters. Like, the psychology, the negative psychology. Yo. Sounds like you stuck your way through that, man.
Yeah, but I think it's something like 15% or something Rangers results at Celtic Park. Again, I'm Hector, just touching on that game. I wish the game tomorrow was at 8 o'clock again at night, so we could do that whole turning the lights out. You see that moment the lights went out in that game? That was literally the moment the whole place this way. That was probably one of the best atmospheres in the last 10 years easy. I mean, 20 years, 30 years. Probably one of the best atmospheres ever at Celtic Park, because it was just amazing how electric that whole stadium was. And that was us stepping up and taking that title away from it. And that was a statement of intent that night. Thanks very much. We're just going to run right by you. And I mean, and we did. And again, if we can come out and do that tomorrow, well, the game can be done for half time. And again, I think they would cower. I think they would just disappear into their shell. They've nowhere to hide. They've no fans to salute. They'll just want to get off the pitch. Chances are Celtic would just retreat into themselves and play within themselves, knowing the game's won. We wouldn't go for a 5 and a 6 and a 7. We would be happy with a 3-1, like this, sit over the line, nice and comfy, professional. No, that way. Just even though we're all goading and hoping for a pummel, they'll be professional enough to just go take the win and walk away. And I only noticed today, Rangers are starting to go to Aberdeen before the break, and it's a 4:30 kick-off on a Sunday. So effectively, we could be 15 points clear, because that would be a hard game for them. That could be a hard game for them. We could be 15 points clear before the break if we have 30+ goal difference. You know what I mean?
Sorry, Monty. There's only, obviously, right, there's only three results tomorrow. We win with 12 points. Done. It's done, right? We draw with 9 points. Done. We could beat with 6 points with such a big goal difference. It's really 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, it's done. Because Ange, they won't lose. They won't win every game, and we won't lose enough to let them come. So, and I think they know that. Their players aren't stupid. We played this a few weeks ago at Hampden. I know it finished 2-1, but I mean, really? Did they spare 15 minutes? Did they spare 15 minutes and that was it? We dominated, right? So I just think with Ange, you know that there's a consistency there with how he speaks and how the team performs. And as we spoke about earlier, sometimes it can click for the first minute, sometimes it takes half an hour, sometimes it takes 60 minutes. There's a consistency there. All the players know their job, and if you step in and I step out, I know that when you come in, you'll do as good a job as me, if no better, on the day. And that's what we've not had for such a long time. We used to make subs, no one quite sure what was happening in many cases. Nowadays, you actually know after 60 minutes, these guys come on just going to add an extra 10% of energy to the team again, which we didn't do last season. And that's why there's nothing's guaranteed. Listen, nothing's guaranteed. But all being even, and the game's played out, and there's no red cards, and there's no daft decisions, I think we're just a better team. You know, just a better manager, better team.
Right.
Just we're a better.
Monty, here's this a wee bit of fun, and of course, please bet responsibly. But if you were compiling a bet builder, I give you £10, free money, bet builder. What would be your choice bet builder sort of bets you would be thinking about tomorrow? Any idea?
Rangers to get a penalty. Tavernier to miss it.
Controversial. Controversial.
Is it a retake given?
It's a retake, so he scores now. Too hard fucking looking at the wrong way. Celtic to get the first booking, Rangers to have a red card, and Celtic -1. If you rolled all that up with a tenner, we'd all be flying business there.
Wait a minute, you said one each.
I know, but it said one each, but Celtic -1. He asked me just to build a bet with
it's not his own money, Hector. If it was his own money, he'd be going, I'll put it in a long-term ISA and I'll wait for a 5-year return of 23%. Thanks very much.
Can I do it each way, but in football?
You'll get £12 back in 5 years' time.
Both teams to start. What's on that? Please, Paddy Power. What were you, Hector? You used to be Hector Bandito's bets.
I know.
Ones?
Oh, quirky ones for tomorrow.
For example, I would suggest Johnson to get booked. I used to always love Lustig.
That's not a quirky one, but I think he will get booked. I think he'll half Kent, won't he? You know he's going to do it.
I used to love Lustig to get booked because it used to be 94 and it was like free money at the bookies. You could just wait for the 78th minute and he would get booked for like the cent just for winding the ref up. It was easy money. Big Lustig.
I'm going to go for. To come on and score at least one goal.
Oh.
Possibly more than one goal. I've just got a feeling with him. I just think he's turned that. You know, players take a bit of time, especially him. The Japanese guys coming over, having 3-4 of them, must have helped for them to settle a bit. He just his career, so he's pretty much on his own in terms of culturally, language, etc., etc. It takes a bit of time. I don't know. I've just seen there's a change in this guy. He just looks. I don't know. I just think he looks primed. He's ready.
Yeah, but that's interesting because Ange and a lot of the players are already alluding to that, as in he's really knocking on the door. I'm not saying he's demanding, but as in like this, his presence and performances in training, and we coming on. Haksabanovic too. Like I know you're a big fan, Hector. Like he's no sulking in the corner and wondering why I'm not getting more than 20 minutes. He's coming on and going, this is what I can do. I know he started one half there, but that was.
He's going to be brilliant next season. Next season he's going to be phenomenal next season.
But he's really young.
The thing we would, and Monty touched on it, just there's wee things you can just see. You may go, it was at Ross County, and I get that. But the kick for Hart, the way he used his strength, just in one go, was it 55, 60 yards coming down, to hold a player off, take it in the outside of his foot and turn. See the skill to do that. I genuinely can't recollect watching Celtic seeing many players do that. It's such a hard thing to do. Then turn the guy and do a lovely pass. So there's things about his game that just look clean. It's like bang, it's clean, right? And I just think he's ready. He's primed and ready. And I've got a feeling if I was to put something on as a wee cheeky bet, was he gets the last 25 minutes or something tomorrow, I would put it on maybe him get the goal tomorrow.
But again, come back to what we said earlier on regards players, we're only talking like for like. You couldn't get two players that are totally different, Kyogo and O, but we'll get as much confidence in each of them now. Obviously O needs a lot more games than Kyogo, but again, we wouldn't if we were sitting here and suddenly announced Kyogo is not playing tomorrow, it wouldn't be like back in the days where we were broken hearted because your star striker's not playing. We'd be like, well, we know O's raring to go, and a good chance is he's going to go on the score sheet. I mean, it's a nice problem to have.
His goal against Hibs was fucking top drawer. Just the way he got away from the centre half, the header. Hibs won it.
Yeah.
It was just the way that he made the space and the way that he just fucking attacked that ball. It was just a proper big bullish centre half goal. It was a Hearts and Sutton type goal. And that hunger that he has. Klinsmann mentioned that. That's interesting, Desi, that he's coming over to watch him in the flesh. Obviously, the expectation plays. Klinsmann said he really liked the look of him. He's someone who just wants to score goals. And you're thinking, might sound very simple and interesting, but for a striker, his whole fucking focus is just that. Doesn't care about the rest of it, but it's Celtic he evolved the rest of his game. And just to echo Hector's point, that touch that he took with the outside of his boot from a 60-yard wallop from Hart, and the way he killed it dead and turned on it, that's fucking top drawer. That's Benzema type stuff.
That's the Bleach style stuff. I was reading Daniel Story's portrait of an icon again today, and reading it the Bleach style and all but that. So that's what made me think of him today, definitely. I'm just looking at the odds for tomorrow, and again, I'm not advocating betting by any point. But Celtic 7-10, Rangers 10-3. I mean, over 3-1. I mean, it used to be like kind of 64-74. They were viewed as so close together, 94 to draw. Now you're looking at Rangers are viewed at over 3-1 to win tomorrow at Celtic Park. I am going, my bet was Johnson to get booked, Maeda to score. I think Maeda terrifies Rangers, the whole speed, and I think it terrifies McGregor, because McGregor's not got the speed to get the ball away from his feet. Maeda's already proved he can score again. I honestly think he'll score again tomorrow. I know he's not been one of his best of form, but he's literally one of the split-second players. He just needs that wee split second to make a difference. Jota's get more of the kind of style over in 90 minutes, but I think explosive-wise against the Rangers defence, who, let's be honest, are not the best against speed, I honestly think Maeda can score at least one tomorrow. Confidence, take him off and bring on Haksabanovic to score for 25 yards in the top corner.
The VAR's the big thing tomorrow, right? We haven't spoken about VAR. And yet it's been yet again the last number of weeks, it's been centre of, even last week with Ross County. And it's a Stonewall penalty. And it's the fact it's even that a day at Walker. Anyway, I won't discuss last week. Tomorrow, let's be honest about it, VAR now has a part to play. VAR didn't have a part to play in the 4-0 game or 3-0 games. It wasn't there. It wasn't available. VAR's now available tomorrow. Yeah. And it's whether it has an impact. You know, is
it John Beaton in VAR tomorrow?
I don't know who's on VAR. It's Kevin Witch's chops as the ref, but it's more about how they play. How they play is for set pieces, is for free kicks, is for corners, and you know.
John Beaton's the fourth official. Apologies, Nick Walsh. God bless Nick Walsh. That bastion of
so it's Rangers on VAR and Rangers fourth. Okay.
And there is a Daniel McFarlane is the assistant VAR, which is obviously the wee guy who works the tracking wheel. We all know who actually a VAR assistant does.
The token Tim.
Can you zoom in and rotate? Because I saw it in CSI Miami one time. No, I cannot do that. It's just a Betamax video where I pause and rewind. That's all I can do. But Hector, you doing? Because I actually made a note earlier on and we were going through the last results. Are we now saying, given the Ross County game and a couple of recent sending offs for teams against us, are we now saying that everything does indeed even up over the season?
Interesting enough, Desi. Let's slightly turn that back a wee bit, right? The one at Ross County was a penalty. Arm out wide, it's a penalty, right? Under the current rules. See the game against Hibs, when Hibs were down to 10 men. What about the penalty that nobody claimed for Hibs? And the penalty, VAR gave a penalty. VAR told the ref to go and look. I mean, even the Hibs manager said that wasn't a penalty. So that put them 1-0 up at the time. And I'd actually argue that the red card they got, my personal opinion, he'd been booked already, just go on with it. He didn't attempt to he tried to kick the ball and Carl Vickers put his head on it. I actually thought it made the game a horrible spectacle after that. Because Hibs are fairly open, tend to have a go, and he just went back into their shell, became pretty much a horrible game, really.
Yeah,
but VAR, it's just, it is what it is, and funny enough, I've not spoken about one thing, was the Andy Walker, who we all know who he is, right? But one comment he made was about, on the Sky Games, for maybe some of the folk who don't know, on the Sky Games, I wasn't aware of this until he said it. He said that they can hear the audio coming from the referee talking to the VAR official. So if the VAR calls, Sky get the audio on it. I wasn't aware of that till he commented on it. And he said there was one game this season, him being him, wouldn't mention the team, wouldn't mention the officials who were involved, but basically said that the VAR official's guidance to the referee was, look, the easiest decision would be just to give us an offside. rather than look at it on the facts you can see in front of your eyes. Then obviously Sky have now apologised to the SFA about it. But there's an example of it, of rather than the officials coming out and just saying, actually, we gave this as a penalty because we felt that player 5 was grabbing the striker's arm in the penalty box. Tells that's a how hard is it to do it? Genuinely, how hard is it to do that?
But it sums the whole game up, isn't it? Like, again, especially you two are very big fans of American sports, and you've got referees mic'd up at all times. You've got post-game analysis from a refereeing perspective, explaining decisions that like across all sports, etc. Even in English games, you'll get like kind of referees coming on and explaining, etc. like that. Scotland, no transparency whatsoever. Everything's very much Again, I'm surprised they even tell you who the VAR official is. I don't really know why they tell you who the VAR official is, because I don't think you should need to know who the VAR official is. No, what I'm saying? You should not need to know who that is. It should be irrelevant because everyone should be the exact same. You know what I mean?
Scotland, the VAR light has been the biggest fucking catastrophe that you could have ever wished or wanted or didn't want or wish for. I was at the rugby match the weekend in Naviga. Yeah, you forget. 60,000 or whatever for a provincial, and the refs are there and the refs are mic'd up. But I wanted to rewind it back to Ireland winning the Grand Slam against England, and a really, really significant decision in that was a red card that England got. The ref, South African ref, is mic'd up, and all the fans can hear him. TV, you can hear it. It's played in real time. You can hear the players talking to him, so they all call him sir, as you know. Whenever this incident happened, it was for a spear tackle, if I recall correctly. And it didn't look as bad in real time until they did the replays. So the ref's seen it in a way that no one else did. Stopped the game. He then asks for the opinion of his VAR, his video assistant referee, and now they open a dialogue. And it's a professional dialogue. It'll be, Hector, what I'm seeing on the pitch is that the number 14 has lifted the green 5 and he's lifted him and he's used the laws of the game. He used the language of the laws of the game. He's lifted him in an unsafe manner and has not returned him to ground safely and correctly. That's what I'm saying. What do you see? Then the VAR gets to look at all the angles and say, I also see that. Then he fucking talks to the touch judge and says, after he's now seen it, and he now is clear that he's not the only one seen it, he asks the touch judge, says, I think he could have controlled that player to the ground. And as such, I think that that's a severe foul play incident. Do you concur, or what's your position? And the linesman then talks through what he's just heard, based on what you've seen, so there's a check and a balance. It's almost like a process before the referee gives the red card.
It's professional, is what you're saying.
Professional, exactly. And what you've got now is some fucking part-time idiot who's already compromised because he's got fucking football loyalties, talking to another part-time official who's getting $1,000, by the way, or 1,200 quid for the day's work, to tell him, look, if you want the fucking easy way out, just say it's offside, because it's kind of borderline, they can't really tell. The way we would talk at a fucking amateur game or the level below. That's the fundamental problem with VAR. It's not proper VAR, and it's being managed and monitored and maintained by amateurs.
Let's not forget, John Beaton, apologies for talking over you there. John Beaton has already been captured in a game this season, saying to a player, it's no up to me, while waiting to listen in his ear. He's a referee. VAR is only there to assist. VAR is, and somebody else done this on Twitter, like, it turns out, if this say it was like the Football Insider or something, turns out it's somebody with something to do with Rangers, ultimately. But they were basically saying VAR has ruined this game by their decisions. VAR don't make any decisions. VAR saying this looks like a penalty or this looks like a foul. It's up to the referee to go either way VAR or go and look at it themselves or say, no, I do not agree. But it's ultimately the referee who makes every decision in a football game. You know what I mean?
Willie Collum, if I'm right in saying Willie Collum is the only one to go over to VAR and go, no, I disagree, it wasn't that.
Yeah. And don't forget, due to Bobby Madden leaving, Willie Collum is the only noted, experienced official of VAR in Scotland now. He's the highest VAR professional in Scotland. And Now they're talking about reviewing it. They had a meeting the other week, remember? And I would not be surprised if suddenly you see Bobby Madden returning to Scottish football as the VAR czar. There's a phrase for you. The VAR czar.
Well, you've got the crazy situation, haven't you, where one of the guys we know who does VAR, only does VAR, doesn't officiate matches, is Andrew Dallas, son of Hugh Dallas. So it's like what tends to be happening is that the referee who does, so say the referee does, for talk's sake, the game tomorrow, Clancy, and the fourth official's Walsh. What they've been doing at times this season is they've been working in pairs. So the next game, if that's their first game as a pair, the next game they swap over. So Clancy does VAR or does the fourth official another. So they've been doing that at times this season. With the exception being Andrew Dallas, who does not officiate matches anymore. Now, Desi, you've obviously got pals, Desi, if you know this better than Monty and me. Now, can you just? I genuinely don't know this. What's the reason for that? Has he now no longer got a referee's? He must have a referee's license to do VAR.
Well, to be a referee, so let's say, for instance, an average footballer runs 10 kilometres in a game. Realistically, a referee is expected to run at least maybe 80% of that. If you imagine the referees doesn't run the full length of the pitch, they run maybe 60-70% of the pitch up and down. There's stringent fitness tests that referees have to pass. And I wouldn't want to sit here, because I know Monty hasn't reappointed the E-Tim's lawyer recently, so I wouldn't want to say that Andrew Dallas has consecutively failed SFA refereeing fitness tests and has had to be benched and therefore become a VAR referee, because that's not for me deliberately for me to say. That is this speculation at this point in time. If Monty wants to go to the holiday home in Portugal and come back and say that from the safety of Portugal, well, that's up to him. That's all I can say.
The bit that I don't get with, but thanks for clearing that up, Desi. So what you're saying is Andrew Dallas isn't fit. That's thanks for saying that.
No.
Hector, what he's saying is...
No, hold on, sorry, just to be clear, I did not say that. What I said was...
Allegedly.
What I said was, I didn't say he wasn't fit. I said he couldn't even pass the fitness test.
Right.
That's even worse.
That's even worse.
And that's enough conjecture, and let's just think about editing and all that, but let's move on.
I was going to say, so there's just one thing, and just when we're on the subject, right, and you made the point about how much these guys get paid per game. And this is a thing that it's quite frustrating, because a lot of the guys haven't played football at all, to any level whatsoever, right? I'm not saying that's always a must-have, but even to have played at a good junior level, forget senior level, a good junior level, right? A good amateur level. A lot of them haven't done that. So the point of these guys who are doing the match official, the referees getting, I think it's around about, your point, about £1,200 a game per game.
800.
No. The referee gets more than £100.
It's expenses.
The referee gets more per game than £100 nowadays.
No, they don't. £800. I'm looking at it right now. £800. £800 a fee at the moment for a Scottish referee.
Fee plus expenses.
Possibly, I'm not saying they're exaggerated expenses.
So let's say £1,000 a game, right? To add it all, £1,000 a game, right? That's the referee per game, mind you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not per week, per game. A lot of them do midweek games. They'll do championship games, you name it, yada, yada, yada. But my frustrating thing with this is that a lot of the guys who have played senior football, not just SPL, the Championship, League 1, League 2, who have been maybe, I hate to use the term journey, guys that haven't quite made the top grade, but they've loved the game. A lot of these guys stopped playing football in their early 30s to mid-30s. Still young men. What's difficult about fast-tracking these guys who have played the game to become match officials and get a fucking good wage, far superior to what they're getting in football throughout their career, who understand the game, who can talk to players in players' language, who know when a foul's a foul, when it's no a foul. I just think, and yeah, the SFA always go to these guys who are accountants or lawyers or teachers, rather than going to where they've got hundreds of players who have played the game and just think, we're going to ignore them. We're going to ignore these guys.
Maybe that's it, and I don't mean to be facetious, or I don't mean to be in any way condescending, but maybe that's it. Maybe you need people with fucking brain power, right? I'm not saying that. Just run it. Most professional footballers who don't make it to a high level aren't the fucking sharpest tools in the world.
But there's hundreds, Monty. There's thousands, actually.
Oh, and I know that, and I'm sure that particular beast exists, but then they have to want to do it. And if you think about the fucking grief that they give refs through their career, even at that
£1,000 a game. Come on.
I'm with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm fucking near to it myself. If I could do fucking well, pass the point, but you know, I just think the crossover. We all assume that because they played the game, they'll cross over and they'll be fine. I don't know that it is that.
No,
I don't know.
You're going to get trained and all that. Nobody's saying it's. But what I'm saying is they're ignoring such a large pool of people who have played the game. Thousands over the years have played the game, and all those thousands, even what's 1% of 1,000? 10 people, right? You're going to tell me that 1%, going to be margins, 1% of those wouldn't be interested, wouldn't be adequately skilled enough, articulate enough to do a good job. And that's the thing for me. But anyway, I'll probably took things off now in a bit of a tangent ahead of tomorrow.
I'm just reading here some interesting facts. Did you know that the highest paid referee in England is paid more than the Prime Minister? Mike Dean is the highest paid referee in England. And how much do you think a snooker referee earns per game? No per frame, per game.
200 quid.
£70 maximum. 70 quid. You know what I mean?
Wow.
For somebody who's arguably got to concentrate more. You know what I mean? Ridiculous.
Right.
I was trying to look up, actually, I think Monty made a really good point there. I was trying to see how many laws of the game there are. It says there's 17 rules of football, but the laws of the game, especially if you think recently the whole VAR thing, is it IFAB? Like, suddenly everybody's starting to want to become, remember that, the old comic strip, You Are the Ref? Remember that sort of idea, like something happens and you've got to say, is it A, B or C? Suddenly they're popping up everywhere as if we're all meant to be refereeing experts. But I think that's an interesting point Monty has in, could your run-in-the-mill footballer be up to learning these? And again, obviously they could learn these things and all that, and it would be great if we could get the actual professional footballer perspective. But clearly the fact that they don't, like like Hector, the amount of players that fall away from the game at 19, 20, 21. I mean, like, why don't they become referees? I mean, why is there no a programme to take them in? Or why is there no people beating down the door to become referees? You know what I mean? It's quite interesting. Is there a pyramid scheme where it's just too hard to go for pub football today in actual Premier League
Boys
football?
Network days, isn't it? Boys Network.
Exactly. But it's interesting questions, and maybe that's the sort of modernisation the Scottish football game needs. But the people who get fast-tracked are people like Andrew Dallas. You know what I mean? As we've saw over the years. It's not been John McGinley who used to play with XYZ FC. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that, strangely. But that's us. So tomorrow, our final prediction. Sadly, apologies, folks, if anyone was hoping Ralph was going to make it. It seems he's not managed to get on. We were wanting to talk about the recent share issue, stroke £1.9 million going into Rangers, and then suddenly Douglas Island Park stepping down, surprisingly, as the chairman of the board. So obviously there's been a lot of suspicion of what that actually means long term and short term, especially with the whole handing in the books for UEFA to review in respect to financial fair play and regularities to actually qualify for a European licence next year. So it'll be interesting. I dare say the SFA might put out a wee caveat saying, yeah, it's been with us for a week and we've just been waiting on it. So everything's in hand. It's not an improperly registered licence application, so I'm sure it'll be fine. So apologies Ralph never made it. Hopefully he'll be here for the next podcast, which will probably be round about the semi-final. Ty Hickey is also hoping to join us. He's hoping to come over for the semi-final, but he hoped to be on this week, but he had other commitments, basically go to the Wolftones in Cork tonight, so he couldn't make it. So hopefully he'll go on the next one. So that's a superstar of the internet to look forward to. So I'll just ask for final predictions before we sign off. Hector, what's your scoring prediction tomorrow?
Celtic by 2.
Do you think Rangers will score?
I think we'll go 2 up and then we'll whatever. We might go 3-0, then 3. We'll coast. We won't go for the jugular.
Okay, Monty, fair enough.
I think it'll be 2 each.
2 years. And is your backside okay there, sitting in that fence? Are you okay? Are you comfortable enough?
I'm wanting my head to give you the answer. My head's giving the answer. I think it'll be 2 weeks and I'll get a penalty in my heart saying we're going to destroy them. But been burnt too many times, even 9 points clear. I just want the League One. And after that, I can slide. Go to Ibrox and pummel them. Just get out of tomorrow and don't get beat. So for me...
I agree with your sentiments, because again, I always like that. We don't need to win a game. Just go be professional and kill it, and that's it done. But I do think we're still too fast for them. We'd be a lot faster if Hatate started, but if he's not there, we'll still wear them down. So I'll go for 4-1. I think they'll score, but I'm going for 4-1. I think the goal scoring machine will kick in. We will find that form in front of the 6-yard box, Monty.
Yeah.
Two goals, Kyogo, Maeda, and then O can get a goal, or Haksabanovic with 25 yards, and we'll all be jumping for joy. And again, it'll be nice to see, hopefully you'll be in the stadium early tomorrow, Hector. I think Ellie Dixon's going to be playing Jota on the wing for our entertainment. She's turning up.
Is Big Ben's going to be there as well?
Oh, again, I seen a tweet when he was getting into a car, so I'm hoping it was heading towards Celtic Park. So
Big man's brilliant. He's pretty good.
And have you seen? And also shout out to Lewis Capaldi for his Netflix special with his Celtic Capaldi 1. What do you call it? His jersey on the wall of his recording studio. That's nice to see.
I watched that.
It was really
on
Netflix.
Really good,
I love the big Celtic jersey.
It's really good watch.
So that's us. So thanks very much everyone for listening. Ralph's Diary is of course available at www.etims.net on a daily basis. We are available on Twitter at etimsnet and also at Vernon. Apologies if I always pronounce that wrong, Monty. So please let us know if you're on Twitter. Give us a shout out. If you've liked the podcast, please tell your friends and give us a like and subscribe. If not, give us a mail at etims.contact@gmail.com and let us know why. We'll try not to talk over each other tonight, hopefully. That's been positive feedback or response to our feedback. So we always welcome feedback as Hector raises the Vickies and Monty puts down his champagne glass there and raises a finger. So thanks very much to everyone for listening. Hopefully next time we meet we'll be celebrating what should be the league being clinched tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Thanks very much. My name is Desmond. Good night.